Hello, I am Priestess Kelvin, and in the news today from the Daily Telegraph on June 28th, 2022, why Britain faces a 1937 moment in Ukraine, what Russia's brutal war on Ukraine means for Britain, and how the British Army could plan to combat Putin's threats of violence. The head of the British Army has likened the country's current defence situation in the wake of Russia's brutal aggression to the lead up to the Second World War, warning Britain is facing its 1937 moment. In an address on Tuesday, Chief of the General Staff, General Sir Patrick Sanders, is set to say that Britain's armed forces must be prepared to fight and win to prevent the war from expanding across Europe. It comes as Russia's relentless invasion of Ukraine becomes deadlier by the day, with Vladimir Putin posing one of the largest threats to peace and democracy ever known. Here is what the army chief's comments mean. What happened in 1937? Neville Chamberlain became Britain's Prime Minister on May 28, 1937, and on the brink of the Second World War, pursued a policy of appeasement in a bid to prevent Adolf Hitler from dragging Europe into another world war. Mr. Chamberlain hoped to prevent war at all costs. I am myself a man of peace to the depths of my soul, he said in an excerpt of his 1938 speech. Armed conflict between nations is a nightmare to me. For the present, I ask you to await as calmly as you can the events of the next few days, as long as war has not begun. There is always hope that it may be prevented. Later, in 1938, negotiations between Hitler and Mr. Chamberlain broke down, and World War II began on September 1st, 1939, with Germany invading Poland. The invasion incited Poland's allies, Britain and France, to declare war on Germany. 2 days later, marking the end of the appeasement policy. What does facing a 1937 moment mean? The phrase our 1937 moment refers to the critical period leading up to the Second World War. Insinuates Britain must be ready to fight and win as Russia's war on Ukraine intensifies. It means the UK must be prepared to act rapidly to contain Russia expansions and ensure Britain is not pulled into a full-scale conflict, according to Sir Patrick. This is our 1937 moment. We are not at war, but must act rapidly so that we aren't drawn into one through a failure to contain territorial expansion. He's set to say in his speech, I will do anything in my power to ensure that British Army, plays its part in averting war. Why is Britain facing a 1937 moment now? Russia's aggression on Ukraine has not waned, and President Vladimir Putin's expansionist ambitions pose one of the biggest threats to sovereignty, democracy, and peace, Sir Patrick will say. Britain's focus will centre around mobilising the army to help prevent the spread of war in Europe by being ready to fight and win alongside our NATO allies and partners. In all my years in uniform, I haven't known such a clear threat to the principles of sovereignty and democracy, and the freedom to live without fear of violence, as the brutal aggression of President Putin and his expansionist ambitions, Sir Patrick is set to say. It comes as a Russian missile destroyed a crowded shopping mall in central Ukraine on Monday, continuing Putin's attacks on civilians living far behind the front line. In another echo of the atrocities of Nazi Germany, the Kremlin has also been accused of war crimes following the discovery of mass graves around Kiev. Sir Patrick's comparison of Russia's threat to the lead up to the First World War comes after he wrote to all defence personnel under his command, warning they must prepare to fight in Europe once again. Defence Secretary Ben Wallace is set to renew calls to increase defence spending in a bid to counter Russia's growing threats of violence. Boris Johnson will also join other NATO leaders in Madrid for a summit where they are expected to agree on the most significant overhaul of the Western military alliance since the end of the Cold War. This is the news I bring to you today. Love God, love each other. Amen. Bye for now.